Sarah, how are you? It's good to see you.
All right. Well, how are you?
Yeah, good. It's been a great day today. It's been a great day. How has your day been?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Couldn't ask for
Okay.
better.
Okay, it seems like we have some people already connecting. Good afternoon, guys. How is everyone today? Please write in the chat box if you can hear me clearly and if you can see me. And of course, you can see my colleague Sarah. So just type in the chat box,
Hello.
yes, we're ready to go. By the way, where's the chat? Okay, guys, we're just checking that everyone can hear us and see us. Very good. Thank you for confirming. Um, by the way, we are waiting for some more attendees to join the meeting. So in the meantime, could you please type, oh, hey, hi, Laura, how are you? Good to see you. Good to have you with us. In the meantime, could you please just write the company where you work just to see where you are joining us from? Okay, guys, great, great. We have some very good presents. We're happy to have all of you. I'm a lawyer in Colombia pursuing a master's degree in London. You want to go to London? That's a great idea. A great idea. I think traveling to England is a fantastic experience for many reasons. I mean, traveling any English-speaking country is a great experience that will contribute enormously to your level of English. And of course, London is a brilliant place. It's an incredible place. By the way, Sarah is from the United States. So today you are going to be listening to two different accents. I am from England. I'm from Bournemouth. And Sarah, where are you from?
I am originally from upstate New York in the United States. Very different accent. Very, very different.
Yeah. Okay, great, great. So, guys, today it's an interesting experience because, as you can see, um, normally when you have meetings with international clients, depending on which country you are doing business with, you are going to be presented with different accents. So it's great. It's a good idea that you can start, practicing your English, listening to different accents. So when you do face an international client, nothing comes to you as a surprise. Okay, in the chat box, please write who deals with clients in the US. So just say yes to dealing with clients in the US. Okay, Juan, yes, that's good. Interesting. Tanya also has to deal with American people. Okay,
So
interesting.
sorry. That's great.
Okay, guys, and okay, very brief, in a very short sentence, do you feel comfortable listening to American people speaking in English to you in when you are working in like a business scenario? If you want, feel free at this time to write anything you want, share something with us, and Sarah will, of course, comment on those experiences.
Sometimes. Okay. Yes. Mhm. Sometimes, even in the USA, there are tricky accents. Yes, this is very true. And whenever I have students who tell me it's so difficult to understand Americans, I remind them that I also have difficulty understanding many Americans. So it's okay. Wherever you're from, there's going to be an accent that'll just be difficult. Um, People from Louisiana, I barely understand, for example. Sometimes, most of the time, confident when the speaker has a neutral accent. Uh-huh. Sometimes I forget the word I need at the moment. Yes. Very frustrating. This happens to me in Spanish, so I very much understand the sentiment, Andres. Yep. It happens to us all. Mhm. All right.
Okay, and what about England? Who needs to speak to Brits? Okay, I would say it's easy for me to. I know. I mean, sometimes the British accent can be it can be more clear. Sometimes it's a bit more formal. And but
Mm,
it depends. In London, there are many accents, so I'm getting
many
used to
accents.
it. Yeah. I'm actually from Bournemouth. Bournemouth is in the southwest of England, and we speak with a very neutral accent. We don't have a strong accent like people in London, or if you go to the north of England, it's stronger. So people say that the accent from the south is easier to understand. So we understand that, of course, when you have interaction with people from other countries, it can be a challenge because you never know where they are from within the country. But the more you practice, the more you will start to adapt and adjust your comprehension skills to these settings. Okay, great. That's interesting. So let's see. Let me just double check to see if we are going to wait a few more minutes, or if we're going to get started. Is everyone comfortable? Everyone ready? Okay, well, let's 2 more seconds. Hi, Carolina. Thank you for writing in the chat box. Okay, guys. So we're ready. So let's go. Okay, guys. So we're going to begin. So good afternoon. So good afternoon to everyone and welcome back. As you know from the previous webinar, I'm Stephen King and I'm the academic director at Profesores Extranjeros here in Bogota. And today I am with my colleague Sarah Mednick to join me in this webinar. A few weeks ago, we explored assertive communication in English and we talked about strategies for professional success. We learned that success in English is not necessarily about perfect grammar. It's about confidence, clarity, I'll say that again, clarity and presence. Today, we are taking that confidence one step further. Oops. We are taking it into the moments that can define your international career, which are job interviews and international meetings. Okay, so the title of today's webinar is Confident Communication for Job Interviews and International Meetings. So let's start by understanding what really drives success in general. I'm not talking just about your English language skills, but I'm talking about your entire professional journey, including your career and your personality. So before we dive in, let's just remember what really drives professional growth today. Companies no longer hire only for the degree you have on your CV. They hire for your transferable skills. Transferable skills. And these are critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork, and communication. These are global competencies, the skills that make you valuable anywhere in the world. But there's more. Interviewers and employers also look for the person behind the CV. They look at you, okay? They want to see your passion. They want to see your determination, your integrity, your motivation, and your can-do attitude. Basically, these qualities don't appear in any test score. They show through how you speak, how you listen, and how you react. Okay, so Now that we know what companies are looking for, let's talk about why so many talented Latin professionals still struggle to show their full potential in English. Okay? Now, why do you think Latin people still struggle with their English? Please type in the chat box something that you feel is what stops Latin people from having comfortable uh, job interviews in English. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to write what you feel is the answer. Okay. Okay, yeah, these are very important situations. Sometimes the vocabulary, sometimes the grammar, the confidence as well. I mean, it's a whole set of skills. The fear of making mistakes. Yeah, and this is exactly what we talked about in the previous webinar. You know, mistakes are fine. Mistakes are fine. All you need to do is just be able to express yourself clearly. The lack of self-confidence. Okay. Okay. So as I said, in our last webinar, we talked about sounding confident, and this webinar is about using the confidence when it matters the most. Okay, so in job interviews and international meetings, this is very, very important. And let's be honest, most Latin professionals don't lack English. I mean, you have a good foundation, some good skills, but what people lack is the confidence to use the English you already know. Sometimes people overthink the grammar, they translate instead of communicate, and sometimes they apologize too much, and you try to sound too formal instead of natural. So don't forget, confidence is not necessarily perfection, it's presence. Okay? So now that we have set the stage, let's move into the first area where confidence truly opens doors. The job interview. We are going to talk about the job interview. So let's just do this one more time. Sarah is going to ask you a question, okay?
Okay, so the question I want to ask is what is, and I'll write this in the chat, but what for you is the most difficult part of an international interview? So for me, there are two things. There's a cultural difference. You're dealing with someone who's not from the same place you're from, and the language barrier, which is just the basics of verbal communication. So I want to know for you, and you can just share in the chat, which of those two things is the more difficult aspect? Because I don't have the confidence, but the people who made usually use vocabulary. B, language barrier. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Both, but mainly A, B. The accent of the interviewer. Yes. B. Okay. So far it looks like a lot of B, the language barrier more than the cultural barrier. Both and more. Thank you, Tanya. Okay. Excellent.
Both and more.
All right.
Yes, we know there might be a few more there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, as we actually no, go ahead, Stephen. Sorry, I was going to ask another question.
Okay, great, guys. So thanks for sharing your answers. Now, moving on, remember that when you are attending a job interview, interviewers are not necessarily testing your English. They're testing your clarity, your confidence, and they want to make sure you are fit for the role. And I want to point out something very important. Interviewers already know that your English isn't perfect and they don't mind. This is not the problem. If they needed a native teacher, a native English speaker, they would have hired a native person. They wouldn't have invited you to the meeting. So they're actually looking for you, for your skills, for your experience. So focusing on highlights, on your strength, and not necessarily your weaknesses is very important. Remember, you are not being evaluated. You are demonstrating your value. Okay, so here I want to share with you something we talked about in the previous webinar, but I think I really want to bring this to this webinar again, just to quickly go over a few things, a few examples of how small language changes completely the impression you make in a presentation, in a meeting, in a job interview. So have a look at this situation. Okay, I'm going to share with you some sentences from an insecure perspective, and then you are going to listen to the confident option. Okay, Sarah's going to help me with the confident option. I'm going to read the insecure option. So, how does this sound? Um, I'm sorry, my English is not very good.
Or, yes, let me explain this in a simple way.
Okay, now imagine I say this. Sorry, my pronunciation is terrible.
Or a more confident way, I will say this slowly.
Okay, next. Insecure. Maybe you don't understand me.
Confident. Let me repeat that in a different way.
I don't know if I can explain this. Oh my God.
Listen, this is my opinion.
Okay. So, guys, as you see, what I am saying is what you don't have to say in your interviews. This is not good. What you need to do is find other simple sentences that make you sound better, more competent. Let's finish reading these next four examples to give you a better understanding. So the next one would be if you say to the person in the meeting or the interview, my vocabulary is too small, it's limited. Or,
Or, I'll keep my explanation simple and clear.
okay, I hope I don't make too many mistakes. Hello?
Yeah.
So, oh,
I'll
I,
focus on the main points.
oh, okay. I didn't hear you, Sarah. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. The second to last is maybe I'm not clear.
Let me give you a simple example.
Okay. And something else that you shouldn't say is I'm nervous about my English.
Better thing to say, I'm glad to practice my English with you.
Okay. So guys, remember, being confident is not necessarily being arrogant. It's just being very clear and showing self-respect. Okay, so now that we've seen how your mindset and your language choices can transform your delivery, let's look at some quick confidence techniques to sound calm, credible, and prepared. Okay, but before we do that, we have another question for you.
Okay, so what I would like to know is how you prepare for an interview, because there are many ways you can prepare. There are many tactics that you can take to feel your best. So my question, and I'll put this in the chat, is how do you prepare for an interview? What makes you feel confident? So among the things, a good night's sleep, among the answers, a good night's sleep, doing power poses, like standing in a very confident way right before. This is something I do actually. Practicing your answers and arriving early. So what is the most important part of preparing for an interview? And I will look for answers in the chat. See, practicing answers. C and D, arriving early, of course. A and C. Agreed. So a lot of practicing answers. I think that's especially important if you're you have an international interview, maybe the more you practice, the less nervous you'll be on the day of course. B and C. Someone else does power poses. That's great to hear. If I arrive early, it's less pressure. Yes. Always, I would say always arrive 15 minutes early. If it's a corporate American job, 15 minutes at least. That's good. None. Excellent answer.
Okay.
All right, very good.
Okay, that's great, guys. So something that I read in the comments in the chat box said preparation. And that's very true because preparation gives you freedom. It makes you feel better. When you already know the shape of some of the most common questions that you're going to be asked in an interview, you can focus on how you feel and how you sound, not necessarily what you have to say. So let me show you a good technique that you can use to prepare your answers for interviews. So when answering interview questions, a clear structure that helps you communicate confidently is the following, and it's called the STAR. It means situation, task, action, and result. So let's describe this briefly. The situation briefly describes the context. The task is what challenge or what responsibility did you have? Then the action, what steps did you take? And the result, what was the outcome? And for this part, you highlight measurable results when possible. So use STAR for questions about achievements, challenges, teamwork, or leadership. Keep your examples short, conversational, and relevant. They can come from work, volunteering, or personal experiences. Okay? And be ready to follow up questions about your examples. So let me give you an example. So please look at this example. I'm just sharing the next slide. So this example is about, imagine a question about leadership skills. So the question could be, tell me about a time when you have shown leadership skills. So the answer could be, the situation. In my previous digital marketing job, the company wanted to increase newsletter signups, which were low. Now the task. My job was to find a way to attract more subscribers. And then the action. What did you do? I organized a brainstorming session with the marketing team and led a social media campaign to generate interest. Now, what was the result? Over 3 months, signups increased by 25%, and management adopted this approach in other departments. So it's a very good way to organize your answer. So there's a clear sequence and it sounds very professional. Remember, it gives you clarity, it gives you confidence, and a professional way to answer questions. Okay, so now that we know how to structure strong, confident answers, let's look at what questions are highly likely to appear in a job interview. And there is one that will 99% of the times appear in a job interview, and it's this question here. Tell me about yourself. So we're going to spend a couple of minutes talking about this question. Before I start describing the question, please say yes or no if you have been asked this question in an interview. Just very quickly, yes or no. have you ever had to answer this question? Because it's an incredible question. It sounds very simple. Tell me about yourself. I mean, everyone knows something about their life, their experience, their profession. But the question is, how do we organize it so it sounds um, adequate for the job we are presenting ourselves to? Okay, so yeah, I'm sure everyone has heard this question. And so remember, answering this question well is one of the most powerful things you can do. Why? Because it lets you set the tone of the interview. It gives you control and it allows you to highlight your value from the beginning. Okay? So when you are answering this question, just make sure to include your top selling points and sounds natural yet intentional. Okay? And what I suggest you do is prepare bullet points rather than a full script. So if you write bullet points, it's a way that you can adapt your delivery and then sound spontaneous each time because you will be tailoring your answers to each time you have to answer the question. And then with practice, your answer will feel natural and confident. So when you are preparing how to answer this question, I suggest you do it in three ways. So the first thing you need to do is answer who you are. The other thing is why are you qualified? Why you are qualified? Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, who you are, why you're qualified, and why you are here. Okay, so these are the three things that you need to take into consideration when you answer this question. So who you are. So you start with your current role, your experience, and area of expertise. So let's listen to an example for the answer to who you are.
Okay. So pretending this is me in the interview, I'm an experienced HR manager with over 10 years in the oil and gas industry, where I've managed all areas of HR from recruiting and training to compensation and benefits.
Okay.
Mhm.
So now the next thing you are going to say is why you are qualified. So here you are going to highlight 2 to 4 achievements or experiences that show your impact and align with the new role. So let's listen to this.
Well, over the past 5 years, I've worked at some other company where I designed and implemented a new payroll process that significantly improved efficiency across the company. As a result, I was promoted to HR manager, leading a team and driving continuous process improvements.
Okay, so that is very succinct. It's enough information. It's basically, as we say in English, the meat of your sandwich. Okay, so this needs to give enough important information to capture the attention of the interviewer. And then you are going to finish with why you are here. So the idea is that you end this question with a short positive transition that connects your story to the new job opportunity.
Mhm.
For example,
So, although I really enjoy my current role, I'm now looking for a new challenge where I can bring my HR expertise to a dynamic, growing company, and that's why this position truly excites me.
okay. So you put those three together, you practice this. The idea is, of course, to choose what you are going to talk about, practice it, and then it's going to start sounding more and more natural. And this is a great way to answer this question, which, as I said, appears 99% of the times in your interviews. But it's not the only question. There are more questions, and you will never know what the questions are going to be. But there are some standard questions that we are going to recreate right now. So, what we're going to do now is we are going to do a mock interview. Okay, a mock interview. Does everyone understand the meaning of the word mock? So mock is just like we're going to practice a spontaneous interview. similar to what you would be facing in reality. Okay, so let's analyze in this exercise how low confidence affects responses to common interview questions. Let's notice the grammar mistakes, the awkward phrasing, and the hesitation. Okay, so I'm going to interview my colleague Sarah, and let's listen to how she is going to answer these questions. So, this is the first question. Okay, Sarah, can you tell me about a challenge you faced at work?
So, a challenge I faced at work. Last year we had a project and I think it was delayed. Um, Maybe some problems of people on the team, and I tried to help, but I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Okay, Sarah, thank you very much for that answer. Let's move on to the next question. Sarah, what would you say is your biggest weakness?
Hmm, my biggest weakness. I think I get nervous sometimes. Maybe I spend too much time on the details. Um, I try to improve, but I still make mistakes. And I'm sorry if that's not a good answer.
Well, I don't think it is, but thank you.
It wasn't a good answer.
That wasn't a good answer, sorry. Okay, and one more. Sarah, tell me about an achievement you are proud of.
An achievement. Uh, Last year I worked on a campaign and it went okay. And I think the client was happy. Uh, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You think. Okay, you think. Okay, Sarah, thank you. I will call you. Don't call me. I will call you. Okay, so guys, these are the answers you shouldn't use in a job interview because what did we notice from these answers? There was hesitation. There was over explaining. She apologized frequently and she used unclear examples and low energy. So even though the English was understandable, the low confidence makes her appear very weak. Now, let's contrast this example with a confident version of some other questions. So, let's share the next slides. Look at that guy. He looks very competent.
He does
So,
look very confident.
he looks very clean as well. So, let's do some more questions, but now listen to the difference. Look at the difference in Sarah's answers. So, Sarah, thank you for coming. I like your CV, but I want to ask you a few questions first. Can you describe your experience working in a team?
Absolutely. I've led cross-functional teams across 3 countries, coordinating designers, marketers, and clients. Clear communication and mutual respect ensure that we met deadlines while maintaining high quality results.
Wow, fantastic. That sounds very interesting.
See, even I make mistakes speaking English words in interviews.
Absolutely. So, guys, see, look, she's a native speaker. She makes mistakes. Mistakes are fine because I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the content of her answer and her personality. You know, sometimes if you make mistakes, you can just laugh about your mistakes. It's not going to be an obstacle to the result of your interview. Okay, but moving on. Let me ask you one more question. So,
Hmm?
and this is a very interesting question, Sarah. How do you handle conflict?
Great question. I approach conflict by first listening carefully, understanding everyone's perspective, and proposing solutions that address the core issue. For example, during a recent campaign, 2 team members disagreed on the concept. I facilitated a discussion, helped them find common ground, and we delivered the project on time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And Sarah, I've been interviewing many, many other candidates, but I want to ask you one thing. I mean, why should we hire you? What makes you special?
Hmm. Well, I bring a combination of creative leadership and strategic experience with a proven track record of delivering results in cross-cultural environments. I'm confident I can contribute value from day one and help your team achieve its goals.
Okay, Sarah, well, thank you very much. I'll
You're
put you
welcome.
through to my secretary and we'll sign the contract next week, okay?
As I expected, as I expected.
As you expected. Fantastic. Guys, so notice the difference. There's a huge amount of difference in the answers in the second interview. There were short, clear sentences, calm, confident energy. So specific examples showing value and competence. Now, all these questions are now effectively demonstrated. And the idea is that you familiarize with the second version of these questions and you use that in your future job interviews. The idea is try and prepare your background, choose the key aspects and points that you want to talk about and rehearse it many times so it sounds natural the next time you talk. And talking about the way we answer the questions, I want to quickly look into the grammar we use when we answer the questions. Okay, so let's have a look at this. This is the grammar that is very common or highly likely to appear when we are answering questions. For example, if we're talking about challenges or experiences, we need to focus on the past simple. For example, last year a campaign was delayed due to weather. So past simple. What's important about the past simple, guys, is to make sure you pronounce the end of the regular verbs clearly. Okay, so if you're going to say I worked, we make sure that the sound is clear. Worked. I worked. I delivered. I presented. So this is key. So you sound professional. But also we use the present tense. For example, when we talk about weaknesses, this happens quite often in interviews. And you say, for example, I tend to take on too much at once, but I'm learning to delegate. So be careful with the conjugation of the third person in the present simple. If you're talking about your boss or a colleague, remember that when you conjugate the verb in third person, just like in the past tense, you have to be very careful with the sound, the clarity of the conjugation. For example, my boss assesses the team every week, or uh, she presents the results to the team online. So these conjugations are very important and they help you sound much more natural. Okay, now another very special tense is the present perfect, because this is something that is very common when we talk about experiences. So we say things like, I have led 3 campaigns that increased revenue. Remember, there's a big difference between the present perfect and the past simple. Past simple is for events that started and finished in the past, and the present perfect combines what has happened in the past but continues today. That's why it's such an important tense. Okay, then again, we have a combination of past and present when we talk about team conflict. For example, I managed a team across 3 countries and now coach new members. So there can be a combination of tenses in your answers. The next one is the second conditional, and this one is incredibly important. Excuse me. This one is incredibly important because oftentimes in interviews, you are going to be asked or put in a hypothetical situation to see what you would do. So an interviewer could say, what would you do if you had to solve a problem between employees in the office or any hypothetical situation? It's a very common question. So you need to understand the grammar to answer it accurately. And it's a very simple tense, a sentence, because it's combining would with the verb, with an infinitive, with the infinitive of the verb, And that makes the whole action hypothetical. So, for example, if I faced that situation, I would call for help. I would strengthen my skills. I would invite someone to join to help. So combining would and the infinitive of the verb makes the whole idea, the whole sentence hypothetical. And this is key when you are attending interviews because it's always going to appear. And well, there's other ones. Why I hire you? We combine the present and the past. So it's just important to keep this in mind for your future interviews. Okay. Now that we know that, now that we've talked about job interviews, the next and the final part of our meeting today is talking about how we use our English, how we use our international communication for meetings. Okay. So before we explore useful phrases and cultural tips for international meetings, let's do a quick quiz. So Sarah is going to ask a few questions for a quick quiz on international meetings.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So when talking about international meetings, this sort of jargon is so important. So let's start with the first one, and I'll ask everyone to write their response in the chat. So you can just type A, B, or C. So the first one, when the meeting starts, the person who welcomes everyone and keeps things on track is the boss, the chair, or the manager. What do we think? I'll just give like 30 seconds, I think. C, okay, the manager. C, B, the boss, manager, okay. Chair. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so it looks like a mix of answers. So this one is tricky, but when we're talking specifically about a meeting, in this instance, the person is the chair. So the chair of the meeting chair, is whoever convened the meeting, whoever put the whole thing together. So that person might be your boss and it might be a manager, but it might not be, right? So this person is the meeting chair. Okay. So number two, the people who take part and share ideas are the audience, participants, or the listeners. And remember, we're talking about a meeting. So the people who take part and share ideas are the B, 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 B. Okay, too easy. The participants, yes. In this case, you all are the audience, but if we were having a proper meeting, we would all be participants. Excellent. So the list of topics to be discussed is the A, agenda, B, schedule, C, plan. And this list of topics to be discussed is the agenda, schedule, plan. A, lots of A's. Yes, so that is the agenda. Excellent. The schedule is the time in which it'll happen, but the list of topics is the agenda. Excellent. Excellent. The next one specific topic on that list is called an A, item, B, issue, C, point. One specific topic on that list is called A, item, issue, point. Okay. It's a mix of A and B. Yes, so it would be an item. It would be an item. The slight difference is here. So the item is the specific topic on the list. An issue is, a tema, a problem. And a point is when you want to say something in the meeting. You say, I'd like to make a point, or back to my previous point. That's when you would use that word. Okay. Moving along, the written summary of what was discussed and decided is the A protocol, B report, C minutes. The written summary of what was discussed and decided is the A protocol, B report, C minutes. A lot of different answers in the chat. Okay, I love that. So nobody said A protocol, which is correct. The written summary, a report, you would think report because a report can be about, you can make a report about a meeting, but this is a very specific instance where the meeting minutes are a very specific kind of document that summarize what was discussed in a meeting. For example, a high-level board meeting, there will always be meeting minutes that are carefully prepared and reviewed at the following meeting. Excellent. Okay, what you send when you're unable to attend a meeting: excuses, apologies, or pardon. When you are unable to attend a meeting. B. Excuses, apologies, or pardon. Yes, apologies. Excellent. Excellent. And a method of reaching a decision. This one might be more difficult. A method of reaching a decision is an A, vote, B, proposal, or C, consensus. I see everyone has said C, and that is correct. Reaching the consensus, super important. And now the final question, which to me is the most important aspect of a meeting. What is decided at the end of the meeting? A, action plan, B, agenda, or C, handouts? Action plan, agenda, handouts. Yes. So handouts are something you might give, a piece of paper with information on it that you might give at the end of the meeting. But typically, what we're talking about here is an action plan. And this is so important in every meeting, no matter where you are, but especially in international meetings, because the action plan is a sort of a written summary of what happens next. In New York, we would say action items or next steps. And it's so important when having these international meetings that everyone is on the same page at the end of the meeting. This is where written communication comes into play and is so important, because if you're all dealing with different accents and cultures, the most important part of the meeting is that everyone leaves with the understanding of what happens next. I think that's probably a pretty American perspective, Stephen. I'm not sure if you'd agree with that, but to me, this is the most important aspect, is the action plan. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody. Excellent answers.
Great job. So understanding that, okay, so understanding this is very important. And as you have seen throughout this webinar, this meeting, you've been listening to Sarah, you've been listening to me, and we both have different accents, we come from different countries, there's different cultures. So one thing, of course, is understanding where you are with your level of English, preparing what you are going to say and how you are going to speak in meetings and job interviews. But one other thing that's very important, and it is what I am showing you on this next slide, is what to expect from people from other countries. For example, when you are dealing or speaking to people from the US, remember to be clear, to be enthusiastic, and to be efficient. When you are dealing with people from the UK, be polite, concise, diplomatic. Germans like to focus on logic and being very direct. In Asia, they value formality, harmony. In Italy, they're very similar to Latin people. They value personal relationships very much. But once you understand that, it helps you to not take things personal and then to adapt your style of communication to each client or to each person. Okay, remember, the success in international meetings requires clarity, planning, and, as I said, cultural awareness. Because, as I've said before, competence isn't about perfect English. It's about presence, structure, and genuine understanding. So guys, we are now coming to the end of this meeting, of this webinar. It's been very, very interesting. I love how everyone has been interacting with the questions, with the chat. And to wrap up, I want to use a final reflection, one that celebrates what Latin professionals naturally bring to global communication. Now, what is the Latin advantage? What is special about Latin people? Now, around the world, communication styles may be different, but authenticity and human warmth always stand out. Latin professionals already have what many cultures admire: warmth, flexibility, and connection. I'll say that one more time: warmth, flexibility, and connection. This is an incredible trait from Latin people. So, guys, lastly, I want to remind you this: confidence opens doors, opens the door. Clarity keeps it open, and charisma invites people in. So your goal isn't to sound perfect, it's to make others feel comfortable, feel understood, and confident in you. So this is what we wanted to share with you today. We have now come to the end of our webinar. I hope you have taken some valuable information from today's meeting. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and that you feel inspired to communicate in your future meetings, future conversations, future interviews with clarity, confidence, and authenticity, wherever in the world your next conversation takes you. So guys, once again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, chatting, and spending some time together. Sarah, do you want to say something to finish?
And no, just the same. Thank you all so much. I hope that you take a lot of confidence and motivation away from this presentation. And yeah, we look forward to speaking with all of you again soon.
Okay, guys, and before you leave, I am going to invite Felipe to who wants to say something. Felipe works at Profesores Extranjeros, and he wants to give a message to everyone that joined the meeting today. So I will now pass you on to Felipe. Thank you very much.
Buenas noches a todos los asistentes. Muchas gracias pues por su asistencia, por haber asistido a nuestro webinar. En sus correos les estaremos llegando pues más información de nuestra organización y a lo que nos dedicamos. Bueno, de nuevo muchas gracias por la acogida y esperamos en webinars futuros su asistencia también. Muchas gracias, Sara. Muchas gracias a todos
Gracias,
y buenas
Felipe.
noches. No, a ustedes, hasta luego.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.